Welcome back to the SCAYLE Debate, where today we are talking about a topic so emotional, so raw, it might as well be talking about dating on apps. And that is the value of our good friends, the system integrators. Consultants and brands treat contractors. It's easy to assign blame to someone, especially if you don't give them proper requirements. Then they actually don't have anything to be accountable to, and you don't have to explain yourself anyway. So that's a challenge. They shouldn't be our adversaries, though. They actually should be on the same side of the table for us. This is our penultimate debate. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. How can we use these SIs to generate medium-term revenue? We actually have had a number of SI debates with SCAYLE, even at Shop Talk this year, where ironically, there was a big question about every brand, especially if you've been in the business long enough, has had a bad SI experience. And by that saying, like, they didn't design your store the right way, you launched, and then you spent the next 6 months to a year recovering. You have to fire them. You have to hire another SI. It just seems like part of the business, but does it have to be? How do you use system integrators in the right way? Ultimately, we're talking about roadmaps, technical debt, the meaning of what a partnership should be in this day and age in e-commerce. And so we're trying to create a stack that is resilient for the future, but not so resilient that you're paying for something that you're not using. So we're going to hear from our panel today, and I'm excited because we have many current and former system integrator members on our panel, and that will be exciting to hear their perspective. As a reminder to you, this debate series is brought to you by SCAYLE, the e-commerce platform built for enterprise retail. Re-platform in under 7 months, launch new markets in minutes, and execute even your most ambitious promotions fast. No more bottlenecks, no more pain, just a platform that simply works. Thank you so much to SCAYLE for sponsoring this debate series, and thank for you tuning in to learn more from our debate series. First up, we have Matt Ezyk, who has more experience with SIs to have both perspective and PTSD. Let's see how he kicks off this debate.
This is near and dear to my heart because I used to work for SIs for many years. So I really believe that you need to treat them as partners, not vendors. You should partner in the outcomes, not just the project, right? So incentivizing SIs for outcomes and long-term value, not billable hours, is really the way you can succeed. And strategic alignment reduces things like tech debt and accelerates delivery. So a real strong vendor SI brand partnership is really essential for you to scale.
This is an exciting start. I mean, my biggest question out of the gate is strategic alignment. This sounds so simple in theory, but very hard to deliver in reality. So we learn the what from Matt in his answer, but we don't quite know the how. And so, however, the outcomes of a great strategic alignment, which I think is the goal of everyone, which is less technology debt and acceleration of delivery, including which should be additional revenue opportunities that you didn't have available in, without that kind of strategic alignment. And so ultimately, Matt is definitely correct that a good SI, especially on a platform that your team might be unfamiliar with, is essential for you to scale. Ultimately, I've seen a lot of developers say, it's like, oh, we don't need an SI, we know how to code. But do you know how to code with this new platform that you're adopting, or maybe your existing platform that you don't know as much as you think you do, with all the integrations that you have to your ERP system, your OMS, your product information management system? These are sorts of things that are the challenge. Matt concludes essentially, I'm picking up on vibes that your SI is not your plumber. They should be your visionary architect helping you reach the next step. So thank you, Matt, for that. Next up, we have Rob Garf, who is no stranger to the platform ecosystem as well. He has a bone to pick, actually, with the phrase system integrator. Let's see what he has to say.
Yeah, I wish there was a better name for SI or system integrator. When I was an analyst back in the day, I did a landscape of retail consultants, and I really struggle with this because the word system integrators, or the words too, word system integrator, really reflect integrating and implementing systems, applications. And I think they're much more than that, a lot more than that. And actually, migrations aren't as tough as the incumbents want you to believe they are. There's a little secret there. Just keep that in mind. Incumbents, the legacy providers, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's marketing, whether it's point of sale, they want to think that they have a walled garden that is impenetrable. It's not true. Migration has gotten a lot easier. And so I feel like just calling them SIs are actually undermining the value they can provide in the long and short term. And the value they can provide is optimization. I would guess, based on what I've seen over the years and the research that I've conducted, is that retailers and brands probably utilize only 25% of the capabilities in their enterprise systems. So they are leaving a lot of money on the table. They're leaving a lot of efficiency. They're leaving a lot of growth on the table. So I think having a consultant, a system integrator, help understand what they have in place today, understand how they can optimize it, and then continue to have them move slowly but surely, because let's face it, like a big bang entire replatform is not very common these days, but showing a path to a more modern enterprise, technology enterprise, is key with, of course, the underpinnings of data, the underpinnings of intent with AI, and then, of course, being open to any channel, whether that's on property or off property.
This is funny. Rob starts by saying the quiet part out loud, which is that migrations are not as tough as the platforms would have you believe. Why does he say that? First of all, lots of platforms provide ways for setup to be easy. The challenge always is that pesky data. What is the hardest data to migrate? All of your customers' transactions and accounts, all of your product data, all of your campaigns and promotions. These are things that are so nuanced to a particular platform that I think Rob is actually slightly underselling how hard it is, particularly for an enterprise, to move platforms. But that say, he says something that hit me right in the feels, which is that has to be a better term in the industry than SI or system integrator. And I think if you sort of channel Matt and Rob at the same time, if you're using your SI as simply a system integrator, then you're using not much of their capabilities, because as Rob rightly points out, these systems and platforms, it's not just the platform, it's an ecosystem of applications that your team uses and how those applications are connected to the platform and connected to each other. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. At the end of the day, the SI, if we're going to keep using that term, their big value should be optimizing not only how you work, but the revenue that's driven through your platform. So thank you, definitely, Rob, for those super valuable insights and optimization of our own debate here. Next up, we have everyone's favorite retail therapist, Suze Dowling, one of the co-founders of Pattern Brands, talking to us about how do you not waste time with your SIs and your tech stacks.
A lot of the time, brands are really treating kind of these system integrators in a very short-sighted way. So I think a lot of the time it's treating them almost like they're a contractor, they're building the house, they're handing over the keys, then please go away and disappear and just leave us be. And I think that that means that the integrators are just going project to project to survive. And then the brands are having these tech stacks that kind of are starting to decay the moment the go live is over. And no one really wins, right? I think the shift is actually more probably philosophical, not just, contractual and dealt with in scoping. I think it's how do we think of integrators as like thought multipliers almost for us, where it's like they're not leaving you at the finish line, but they're, staying in the system in some way, shape, or form to kind of help compound the value of what you've already built. So it's like helping, catch those issues. And I think what that means for medium-term revenue is implementation isn't the finish line, it's the starting line. The commerce technology isn't static itself, and customer expectations are evolving and everything's shifting, right? And so you need to be able to have systems that can keep up with you and keep up with the pace of change. And I think then the kind of SI ecosystem, it's very underleveraged today, right? I think, they're spending these hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes on the tools that we have on the stack itself, but then they're kind of trying to cheap out on the integrators. Like, how do we have this cost that we minimize? And I've even done this in an RFQ where I'm like, well, they'll do it for this, so like maybe we should go with that. And like that's actually kind of a little backwards, because without someone that's actually maintaining and optimizing and evolving that system, you're actually losing so much effectiveness of the stack. So I think we shouldn't treat it as a cost center. It shouldn't be this like one and done. It's like, how do you have it in it as an extension of your growth engine? And again, I don't think that means that it needs to be like this permanent retainer or always on, but I think it's shifting a mindset from kind of just delivery ASAP to durability, and like from kind of a what did they do for us to a like how do we make sure we're educated ourselves on how we can continue to improve and iterate with this system to get better over time. And ultimately it's just like, how do we think of them as partners? Because again, they can make us smarter. They're not just here to execute on something. It's how do we make sure that they're helping us be smarter and set us up for success by the time they hand off the keys. The other thing I'd just say here is, even if they are not your ongoing partner, how do you also internally make sure you're set up for success with the team members that you have to maintain and iterate? And I think a lot of the time people shy away from global talent. And my kind of just 2 cents there would be, I think that's kind of, you get a little bit of a closed view sometimes, where even when we're looking for partners for the integrations themselves or ongoing, I think we're like, oh, it has to be in my city or my state or my country. But like talent is worldwide. And I think it's just how do we make sure we're leveraging that? And then also, how do we pick platforms that are widely adopted enough that they have a strong kind of ecosystem of integrators, because that's going to be a healthier, more durable platform, most likely.
Suze always gives it to us straight. So I think the idea of a thought multiplier, if that came out of me, I'd be a little scared of what the end result would be. But she settles on the word that really resonates with me, and that is amplifier. Whereas Rob settled on the word, how can we get the SI to optimize your business or the platform itself? But how Suze really enjoys that word amplifier. And I think, how can you get a multiplicative effect from the value of the SI compared to what your team can do on its own? I think that's definitely something that stands out to me. The implementation being the starting line, I wholeheartedly agree with that, because, like, first of all, let's face it, half the time the launch itself is not so successful, and so we're scrambling to catch up and to reproduce functionality and to ensure customers aren't disappointed. But at the end of the day, how do we treat SIs as partners? I think Suze hints at part of the problem, which means if we put out some kind of RFP or request for proposal or RFQ, request for comments and questions, can you get beyond the bottom line price that they're giving us? Because we all know, if you say your budget is $150,000, $300,000. We know all the quotes are going to come back like $295,999. But who should be the winner? It should be the one that accelerate your team the most. So we can't get our relationship with our SI sort of crossways and backwards. We really need to focus on how can they amplify us. And so thank you, Suze, for those comments. Dave Finnegan, of course, comes in with an actual war story. So real retail trench warfare Dave is talking about. So he always has a human-first approach, an anthropological approach, which is a lesson in our relationships, which include our system integrators. Let's listen in.
When I was at Build-A-Bear, we were working on the store of the future. And one of the things that I learned through that process is when we were talking about building the experience, what we did is we identified the top 3 to 5 most important vendors, the most important SIs, the most important platform vendors. And we actually brought them in at the very, very beginning when we were designing what the store of the future would look like. In other words, sometimes I think we treat SIs and our partners as mercenaries, where they come in, we tell them, okay, here's a list of things that we want you to do. We have them do those things and then they're gone. I found a lot more success when I bring them to the table early at the problem solving and problem defining and problem experience design layer. And then because we started at that layer, they're already set up for success in making sure that those experiences can happen because they help to input how we can make it happen. And so I feel like retailers who invest in this long-term strategy of relationships with vendors and treating them as co-creators and rewarding them on business success and not just on implementation hours. What I found is that they were force multipliers for my team. And so I learned that at Build-A-Bear, and then I did it again at Orvis, and it's a proven recipe for me. I'll continue to go back to is bringing them to the table early and then keeping the ones that are the most important to us.
I feel like we've heard some of the debaters talk about what should happen, what a good outcome would be, but it's not 100% clear from all the debaters until we get to Finn here, where he actually talks about how to make it happen. What does it mean for the SI to be a true partner? And the key defining characteristic that Finn brings to the table here is very simple. Bring them early. Don't bring them late, meaning like you've already figured out what your problem is, what your customers are trying to solve. You've already designed the solution. You've already designed the experience, and you're just looking for someone to like bang out some code for you. That doesn't sound like a partner for you. That sounds like trial by lowest bidder. And like a trial by fire, you could get burned with that approach. So strategic partner means actually early partner. How can the SI be seen like a co-founder almost to your e-com platform? And having that kind of insight is the way to deliver some of these things like our other debaters are talking about. And Finn actually makes it very real from an operator's point of view, how to deliver that and to ensure that your SI is delivering what they promise on and to their maximum potential. So that's super exciting from a knowledge point of view. Finn is always great for these truth bombs, and I'm glad he dropped a couple on us today. Finally, we have our returning champion trying to get back into the winner circle. That's Lee Trotter. He actually has sat on the few sides of this debate, so I wonder what he's cooking up here. Let's listen in.
Having worked in that space for a while, I think to create revenue for the SI to create revenue versus the brand to create revenue. So for the SI to create revenue for themselves, it's stop focusing on your bottom line. If your deal desk is saying, well, we need a 35% margin or a 30% margin on this deal, and the sales rep is saying, I can get you a 25%, take the 25% because you're winning the deal. Because if you don't give them the 25% margin, you're going to lose the deal, you're going to lose all revenue, and it's going to go to your competitor. So it's a double loss. You've just increased your competitor's revenue and you've reduced your own. So turn that around and look at it and go, at the end of the day, if we can get in there and we can make money, especially as times get tight and companies are not investing as much in infrastructure and IT and new initiatives because they don't know what the future holds, you want to take the business. I'm not saying give away the business, but what I'm saying is like, be strategic in that, like, hey, if we've got an ongoing customer, we risk losing them to a competitor, give them the deal they need so that you can keep that customer active in your portfolio, because the times will get better. It'll eventually improve and you'll get back up to those higher margins. But in the meantime, you've got to do what the customer's doing. And that's like, look at like how we need to change how we do business, right? And we need to maybe, strengthen our ties with our customers so that they can trust us and they know that they're getting a good revenue back from whatever we're providing them.
Lee, it's interesting his approach here. He takes the side of the SI, and I am kind of reading between the lines in Lee's comments that the SIs actually might be their own worst enemy, meaning you want to win a deal and maybe this deal isn't as high margin as you thought it would be. As a result, you try to reclaim some of that margin by doing fewer hours or lowballing the bid or putting more junior people on it so that you can still hit whatever your 30% margin is. And I think that is somewhat of a cautionary tale for SI, because let's face it, a system integrator is a tough business, meaning like you have these bodies here, and then maybe in the future, and even some SIs today have robots creating code for you, but how are they adding value? And so I think SIs are getting squeezed, and I think there has to be some recognition of that fact if we're actually going to treat the SI as a partner, because ultimately the SI needs to understand how a retailer makes money and where are we trying to maximize the value, what products are going to be most profitable, so we can decide what the feature and how to design the platform the right way to optimize our growth SKUs and our most profitable inventory. On the other hand, the retailer need to understand the business that the SI is in. How do they make money? And how is this not going to be just another one of those churn and burn horror stories that are so common in the system integrator universe, then require the dreaded rescue SI who comes in to save the day. So it's not a bad thing. I think Lee showed us his hand, and that is something I have learned a lot from today. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Lee. Well, that does it for today's debate. We have a lot of different perspectives. We have people who commented, answers the question more specifically. We had others who tried to get underneath from the operator's point of view. What do you need to do to make these partnerships work better, not just describe that they need to work better? And then finally, Lee, if you're feeling SI friendly, then I think that's sort of where you should go here. So this is if you're at SI in the room or watching this, this is kind of your SI therapy session that no one asked for, but everyone knows it's needed. So 5 contenders come in. We have a reigning champ who is fighting to hold the crown. Now it's time to vote. Did you resonate with Matt, Rob, Suze, Dave, or Lee? Cast your vote now. All right, everyone gets their votes in. we are going to share the results, and we seem to be a new trend here. We have a tie between Matt and Suze. So we have dual crown, king and queen, dare I say? Is that appropriate? I don't know. Co-winners. Let's go with that. So we have someone who's really trying to get to the heart of SIs. Matt's PTSD approach definitely seems to have served him here, and Suze is really trying to get thought multiplication to enter our lexicon, and I think with our debate, that definitely happened today. So you've decided who won debate 9, and I'm excited to celebrate our winners. Remember, you need to treat your SIs like partners, or ultimately, you're actually treating your tech stack like a haunted house. Maybe I should have used a Christmas metaphor. Nah, too late for that one. But we will see you later this week. We're going to do another debate and our final debate of the year on Wednesday, where we would love to have you coming back. And again, from Rick Watson, we'll see you next time.